You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Moline, the co-author of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I'll be sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Today we're gonna talk about how to increase the your revenue per job. And I know that's always something that contractors want to do, right? We always want to make the most per job. And today we're with a successful entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience in the construction industry. Really, I think right out of high school, or maybe even in high school, started in contracting. At the age of 24, he formed an exterior remodeling firm serving the Chicagoland area, and then grew that to what is today a 6-location business, doing over $10 million in annual revenue. And has exited that business, and a couple of years ago, while working in that business, founded Elite Claim Solutions, with the focus on helping roofing contractors supplement their insurance claims. Today we have Mike Braun. Mike, how's it going today? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Greatly appreciate it.
So what did I miss? What else for people that don't know much about you? What how can you explain how you got into this industry and a little bit about Elite Claim Solutions?
Sure. Let me kind of start with my my street cred here. How about that? We'll get started. So I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Graduated high school in '99. 17, there's a huge storm that hit Omaha. When all my buddies were like getting jobs between high school and college, like mowing lawns and waiting tables, it's like, I think I can sell something. And back then you like literally opened up the newspaper and like looked through the classifieds for a job. So that's what I did. And there was like, 20 or 30 different roofing companies hiring people from this big storm. And I thought, oh, I can do that. I'd kind of been in construction a little bit. I'd worked at a plumbing company, like, digging ditches out in new construction and, all sorts of terrible construction jobs. And so I applied and got a job at one of these places and was kind of assigned to their top sales guy as his gopher. And literally, like, I would follow him to his appointments. He would go to the door to like run the lead, and I would go knock all the doors around it and, put flyers out. And then in the evenings, I'd go back to the office, and they used a cold directory, which was, like, if anybody knows what that is, now it's all digital, of course. But back then, you like literally opened a book. It was like, this thick, and went through and like found the streets you wanted to call, and then, smiled and dialed, as they say. So that's kind of how I got started. And then I went off to college and kept doing it when I would come back for summers. And then, gosh, what year was it? In 2001 or 2, joined another company, became production manager. Then left that company, went to another company, did the traveling around thing for a while, was a general manager, then a regional general manager. And then, 24, started 123 Exteriors was the name of my company, in a little tiny 600 square foot month-to-month office. Rented my first computers because I didn't have the cash to buy them. I found a guy to rent me computers for $60 a month. And grew that into kind of one of the longest lasting and largest insurance restoration firms in the country, with 8 locations kind of around the Midwest, from Omaha, Nebraska over to Ohio, from Milwaukee down to St. Louis. So I sold that in April of 2020 to a longtime employee. It's actually one of the things I'm most proud of in kind of my whole career. I didn't sell it to some outside group. I didn't sell it because we were going bankrupt or anything like that. I sold it to a guy who'd been with me for 13 years, who was the COO, and sold it after our best year in sales ever. And I'm both happy and sad to say, I just talked to them the other day, and they're beating last year's sales. So I sold it and they're going to go up somehow, which, like I said, I'm happy for them, but after I left, they're going up even more. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited for that. But to your point, in the process of building that company over 14 years, one of the things I'm proud of is we lasted 14 years. There's a lot of companies that come and go and they get really big, really fast, and they fall apart. And we kind of, stood the test of time. And one of the reasons we did that is we were a very kind of process and procedure focused company, and really focused on understanding our numbers. And so in 2012, we did some analysis and said, hey, our process is that our sales reps supplement jobs if they need to. And basically it was like, if we, went over 2 squares on a job when we did the production, the sales rep's supposed to go supplement for it, which is pretty normal. That's kind of what a lot of folks do. But we did an analysis and we looked, and just in permit fees alone, in the previous year, we had lost $76,000 in permit fees, which is the easiest supplement to get. Like, you send the insurance company the receipt and they send you it's super simple. But sales reps were focused on turning and burning, which I understand, right? Sell the job, move on to the next one, sell the job, move on to the next one. And so that extra hour or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 to go back and supplement properly just wasn't a priority. So we started a division internally that focused on that. We hired someone who, reviewed every file and kind of started out just trying to get the extra squares and permit fees and things like that. But we really grew it over time into a business that was, it was kind of a business within the business. They were doing over $1 million in additional revenue every year just from supplementing properly. And so to make a long story longer, I've been going for a while here, sorry. In the winter of 2017-18, we did this thing called 1-2-3 Exterior Shark Tank, where I had all my kind of department heads and division heads come into town in St. Louis, where our headquarters were, and pitch an idea. Hey, give us an idea that we can spin out into another business. If you win, you'll get a bonus, and we'll kind of help get the business off the ground. And the person who's running this division, who's now the president of Elite, her name's Chastity Fricky, pitched the idea to spin out her division and start what is now Elite Claim Solutions. And it was really great timing. So the COO and I had kind of been talking, the guy who I ended up selling the company to, I kind of been talking and realized, like, boy, we've really got something here. This might be something that we can provide to other contractors, but we hadn't put the pieces together yet to say, actually, let's go do it. So when she wrote the business plan and presented it, it was like light bulbs started clicking and it made a lot of sense. So 2018, we piloted with 3 or 4 contractors just to kind of learn and say, hey, we can do this for ourselves, but can we do it for other folks? That feedback was great. It went really well. 2019, we kind of started pushing a little bit more. I brought us the vice president of 1-2-3 over to Elite, who became the CEO. Her name's Molly Neal. And by kind of mid 2019, we were kind of hitting on all cylinders. Our phone was ringing. We were getting busy. And it just kind of worked out and coincided with the timing of selling 1-2-3. And so when I sold 1-2-3, we brought a number of people from that business over to Elite. So one of the things we're really kind of excited about and proud of, and that makes us different than the industry, is we are really a group of contractors who are now doing this. So we've been in your listeners' shoes. We've been salespeople. We've been production managers. We've been marketing people for a construction company. We've been owners. We really see projects, the same way as your listeners do, and understand what it takes to take a roof off and put it back on, which I think is kind of a unique thing in the supplementing space.
Definitely. And that's that unique experience that helps you to perform much better on your supplementing, right? To really understand how to take it off, how to put it back together, along with what and how to ask the insurance company for. And we were talking about it, and I think you said that there was something like an average, and this is an average, of course, over, hundreds and hundreds of supplements, probably of like $3,800 per job, right? Yeah. So think about that as contractors. If you're missing out on, $4,000 almost per job that you're working on, per storm restoration job that you're working on, per insurance claim, that, when you had said what you guys were, what was it, 70 something $1,000 just in
76,
permit fees?
just in permits.
Just in
Crazy.
permit fees, right? So, and this isn't, what I like talking to you about, Mike, was because, you're not saying, hey, go out there and just try to get stuff for no reason, right? These are legitimate, real, true, legitimate costs to your business that you're incurring that should be covered by the insurance company. So one of the things that I'd like to ask you first, and what I get when I'm talking to contractors is, a lot of times they just don't know how to file a supplement.
Sure.
Right. So can you kind of go into a little bit about that, kind of the steps that you think people should do in order to file a proper supplement?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a very key point, a proper supplement, right? So there's a million ways to, and if you talk to adjusters, they'll tell you, oh yeah, I've seen it, handwritten on a piece of, on the back of a napkin, and I've seen it, done properly. So you have much more luck if you do it properly. So step one with any proper supplement is documentation. That's key. You have to be able to prove what you're asking for. An example of that is everybody wants to throw a porta potty on the supplements these days. It's like a thing that we hear all the time. Oh, you put a porta potty on it? I'm like, sure, if you send me a picture of a porta potty, I will, because you have to be able to prove it. You can't just say, I'd like to have it, so give it to me. No, you have to be able to prove it. So things like, getting good photos of difficult access. If you're going to get a difficult access fee put on a supplement, you have to show that your crew had difficult access, that, you had to double handle the material, or you had to carry it up, or you had to throw it off the back and carry it around. You can't just, say, give it to me. You have to kind of show that. Things like vents is another good one. How many vents do you have? Do you have, oh yeah, you put box vents on, but they're turbines. Well, okay, show me a picture of the turbine, right? So they're kind of common sense things, but people kind of get used to that. I'm going to go back to that turn and burn, sell the job and move on, sell the job and move on. And if you're a sales rep, I get it. Listen, I've been there. I've done that. I've taught sales reps in my early career that was the model. But I realized over time that both from an owner's perspective and a sales rep's perspective, you're losing $4,000 a job when you don't do that documentation properly so that you can submit a good supplement. So anyway, to your point, step one is send a proper supplement in by providing the carrier with good documentation via photos, code documentation. What codes do you have in your market that you're working to show that? Those are some of the big things from a proper supplement standpoint.
Nice. And that's what photos is a big thing, right? And there's lots of there's some solutions to making that easier out there in the market that you guys can look for. But I think the first point is that it's making sure that you're proving what you need, right? What you need the supplement for. Exactly. So it's as simple as that. Don't think that you're just going to get something for nothing, right? Yep. Make sure that you're documenting it properly. And do you guys, when you not as a commercial for Elite, but what do you guys use with your contractors to help them kind of document that process properly, or what, knowing what to document versus what they don't need to document?
Yeah. So I think, back to the we are built by contractors for contractors idea is, we have 20 years of experience, 14 building 1, 2, 3 exteriors that we bring to the table at Elite, and all of the documents and checklists and things that we created over that time period to help our own company. We now offer to Elite clients. So when you become a client, you get kind of this specialized access. We call it an Elite member access to a page on our website to just download all these things, inspection checklists, photo checklists, contingency forms, all those things that contractors need to really make sure that they're documenting what they need to on a claim. We provide them.
Perfect. So for someone who's not working with you, maybe they're trying to do this in-house, what would be included on that checklist that would be most important for them?
I would say that it's the photo checklist is probably the most important. So on the photo checklist, it just takes you around a house is basically the idea. So again, knowing how an inspection goes as a contractor, we kind of designed it that way. So when you climb up the ladder, it says, take a picture of the layers, right? Lift up the shingle, take a picture of the layers, take a picture of ice and water shield, see if it's there. When you're on the ground, pull your tape to measure the soffit. That's a big one because take a picture of that tape because you might need 2 rolls of ice and water. Yeah. If that soffit's big, 12 inches or more, you need 2 rolls of ice, which is a ton of money on a claim, that extra roll. And again, if you're a good, honest contractor, you're putting 2 rolls of ice and water on because you need to. You might as well get paid for it, right? But you have to have that picture of the soffit to prove that you want to get paid for it. So we just kind of take them around the house and point out things like that. It's kind of a reminder as you look at the checklist. Oh, that's right, I need to grab a picture of this. Oh, that's right, I need to grab a picture of this. That's kind of
that's what you could do as if you're doing this yourself and trying to put this in process for your team and things like that, is to put together a checklist. And that's a great idea as you're doing the inspection, right? The steps that you have in your inspection, just adding steps for documenting each of those things. That's a great one.
Yeah.
What were some of the other checklists that you had there? You had mentioned.
So there's the photo checklist, the inspection. So the photo checklist is about taking photos, and then the inspection checklist is about doing the inspection. So how many vents are on the roof, right? So vents, what type and how many? Plumbing boots, what type and how many? Things like that. Flashing, how much? And the reason for that, both that checklist and the photo checklist, if you're an owner or a sales rep, a lot of it's just about time management.
Yes.
So think about it this way. If you go to that house, you look, hey, there's damage, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, sign here, we'll meet your adjuster. Then you meet the adjuster, you get it approved. Then you go to turn in your job, via a digital program if you're using a CRM or paperwork. And your office says, hey, wait a second, we need these 10 things. We don't know how many vents there are. We don't have photos of this, that. You have to go back. So what we're trying to do is say, hey, here's these things up front. When you're there, just do this all at once, because then you can not only get good supplements, but you can move quickly. You can go get that next deal and not be spinning your wheels, running back and forth to get this stuff. So it's kind of, again, it's about putting it in front of people, in front of sales reps out in the field, so that it's a reminder. Oh, I better mark down how many vents I have and what type. I better do this. I better do that to kind of speed the process up.
Definitely. That's with everything, right? Is to make a process out of everything that you're doing along the way. Really helps with that.
And Jim, I'm sorry, can I jump in 1 second?
Yeah, go for it.
I just thought of something that's really important. And for your sales reps who are listening to this, sorry if you don't like what I'm about to say. For the owners and managers, hopefully you'll like what I'm about to say. But listen, if you're going to put these things into practice, checklists, whether it's my checklist or your own created checklist, whatever, the key is, as an owner and a manager, then hold people accountable to it. So if they turn in a job and don't give you the checklist, don't let that job move forward. Send it back and say, nope, I need this to be turned in. When I mentioned earlier that, I'm a process procedure guy, like that's one of the ways I built 1, 2, 3 to be, to kind of last the test of time. It's stuff like that. It's saying, no, I'm not going to take the job without you doing these things, because you have to create that habit in your team, or else you create a form that nobody uses, then who cares? Why have the form, right? So you got to make sure that the people actually use these things, because it's going to save a ton of time in the long run and make everybody more money, which is ultimately what we're trying to accomplish here.
Definitely. Because if your salespeople, your salespeople are on commission, right? So if they're increasing their average job by $4,000, they're increasing their commission, right? Yeah. So it goes hand in hand. Everyone works together as a team to get this done. One of the things that you talked about up front was that when you guys started doing this process, you had the salespeople doing the supplementing on their own jobs. Yep. But I know in other conversations that we've had, and then you guys turned it into an internal division right? So a very focused, dedicated team to doing this. What kind of advice could you give someone on who should do the supplementing?
Yeah. Yeah. So, you really need someone qualified. And just because someone's great at sales doesn't mean they're great at supplementing. And quite frankly, it might mean that if they're great at sales, they shouldn't be supplementing because they need to go sell more jobs, right? So that needs to be their focus. So whether you're doing it in-house or using a third party, you really need to focus on finding someone who's qualified to write a supplement. And that's not just because of the speed and not wanting to slow your sales reps down, but it's also because when you write a supplement to an insurance company, you have to speak their language. You have to be able to send those photos and those checklists and the other things I've talked about over in such a way that it shows them what you're asking for, that it's speaking their language to make their job easier. You don't want to make their job harder. You want to make it as easy as possible. And the folks who know how to do that are folks who have experience in supplementing, and they can put something together that an adjuster can quickly look at and say, yep, I get it. Either I'm approving it or I'm denying it, and here's why you need to do this or that or the other. And it makes it a lot easier, and again, move faster, which is something that everybody wants to do.
Definitely. So that's to the point is someone that's qualified doing the supplementing, to recap that, speaking the insurance company's language. I think that's a big one right there, right? What are some examples that you found, through your years of not speaking the insurance company's language versus speaking the insurance company's language?
Right. So, gosh, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but a lot of the language is about this documentation stuff. It's about showing them. So you have to think about it this way. They're employees of a big company, right? They have rules and guidelines and procedures surrounding what they can and can't do. So if you ask for, here's an example that I love. Let's say there's a pool in the backyard of a job you're doing, right? So right off the bat, if you've got a photo of that pool, you should have roughly, I think on average, they're like $700, a $700 supplement for covering that pool. As a good contractor, you're going to cover the pool. You don't want to buy a new pool pump or a new pool liner when all the debris falls in it. So you're going to cover the pool. Again, it's something you're really doing, but you need to show the carrier that it's there and explain why you're doing it. So you can't just show them a picture of the pool. You have to then know in Xactimate I think we might talk about this in a second, whether you have to use Xactimate or not, but in Xactimate or in your own, program that you're using, explain what that pool covering is for. So let me explain what I mean by that. You can't just say cover the pool. Okay, well, what does that mean? In insurance company lingo, it's based on the size of the tarp that you're going to use and the time it's going to take the crew. So when you put that in, you can't just say pool tarp, $700. Well, listen, if it's a 10 by 10 pool, it's not $700. It's like $300. If it's a 20 by 20, right, and it goes up. So you have to know how they want to see it. And they want to see it based on the size of the tarps you're using and the time it takes to tarp that pool. So you have to understand those things when you put that supplement together. Otherwise, you're just going to get pushback. You say 700, they say, no, it's only 300. And then you're, again, taking longer to get that thing resolved, and you want to move quickly.
Definitely. And you did mention Xactimate, and that is insurance language, right?
Yeah.
Xactimate is the program, the software that they use, on a day-to-day basis, and being able to put your supplements in Xactimate, at least they have the codes that they can reference. Everything is really very, very in their language in Xactimate.
Yep.
But what I was surprised to find out, and I didn't know this, that you were telling me about, is that you don't have to use Xactimate for your supplementing.
Yeah. So let me explain kind of what I mean when I said that. So I think a lot of contractors decide essentially not to supplement because Xactimate is such a daunting thing to learn. So they say, I'm not going to supplement because I don't understand Xactimate, or I'm only going to file supplements that are really easy, like here's a receipt for my permit type of stuff, right? And so they just don't supplement. And so I think my argument is that that's not the right mentality to have, that putting together a supplement in Excel, your own Excel, as long as you spend the time to build it right, or your own Word document, where again, you're giving that description, 10 by 10 tarp instead of just tarp. But you're kind of thinking about it, and anyone who's seen a bunch of scopes will have the ability to do this because they've seen these things on scopes before. If you put it in terms that are similar to Xactimate, you don't need to know the Xactimate codes. Believe me, the adjusters know how to look up 10 by 10 tarp and Xactimate if you put that on your Word doc or Excel spreadsheet. And you know, as a contractor, roughly what the pricing Xactimate is giving for those, because again, you've seen it a bunch. So don't triple the price or else you're just gonna get shot down. Try to make it reasonable and put it into your own document, because that is way better than not supplementing at all. And the insurance companies deal with tons and tons and tons of contractors. And a lot of contractors don't use Xactimate. So they're getting, just essentially a bid from a contractor that says, here's what I need to do the job. They're used to dealing with this. And at the end of the day, saying I'm not going to supplement because Xactimate is too expensive and too daunting to learn is just not a good call, because you're losing money on every job. Even if, let's pretend, we're good at this. This is all we do, right? So we're kind of experts. So we're at $3,800. Let's pretend it's only $700 per claim that you're getting yourself. But if you do 100 jobs a year, $700 is a lot of money. A lot of money.
Lot of money.
At the end of the day, find a way to file a supplement, even if it's just via Excel or a Word document. Send it in.
Yeah, don't lose out on that money.
Right.
You're losing out on that money if you're not doing it.
Yep.
And I've heard this before too, and a lot of contractors also, you talked about it a little bit in relation to the documentation process and things like that, but I think a lot of contractors will just throw everything at the wall. You had mentioned the porta potties, right? Like everyone's asking for a porta potty nowadays. They're, the specificity of the roof tarp for the sides of the tarp to cover the pool, things like that. What kind of, should you ask for everything and get what they give you? Is a kind of I think that's an important question. How should a contractor go about that? Should they just kind of blanket it or be very exact?
So everything within reason. I'll give you an example. We put O&P on every single job that we supplement, unless we're specifically instructed by a client of ours not to. And some people might say, well, that's asking for, you're asking for everything, you're not going to get O&P on every job. And you're right, we're not going to get it on every job, and we don't get it on every job. But I feel very strongly as an ex-contractor that I have a very reasonable and legitimate argument to make as to why overhead and profit should be included on every supplement. So we put it on there because we have a reasonable and legitimate argument to make. The porta potty thing, I'll go back to that example. I don't have a reasonable and legitimate argument to make because 90% of the time, nobody uses this porta potty, right?
Yeah.
It's not actually happening. If you're putting a porta potty on the job site, cool, take a picture of it and supplement for it all day long, fine. But the argument I think out there right now is literally put every possible thing on a supplement, and whether you're doing it or not, and see what they approve, because hey, if they only approve half of it, it's still a lot of money. Yeah, but listen, this is what gets contractors and us as an industry into trouble. And I think, and I may be one of the lone voices on this, by the way, kind of in the market right now. So I get heat for this sometimes, but listen, it is what it is. I believe what I believe. The insurance company is not the enemy. They can't be, because we rely on them to pay our bills at the end of the day, right? And I've never found a scenario in life where fighting someone tooth and nail pays off in the long run. It doesn't pay off in the long run. We have to find a way as a contracting community to work within the rules the insurance companies have set up. And of course, not let them walk all over us. I'm not suggesting that. We need to fight when it's time to fight. But one of the ways we allow ourselves to work better together is by just filing things that are honest. Just be honest. If you use a 10 by 10 tarp, put a 10 by 10 tarp on the supplement, not a 20 by 20 tarp. If you use a porta potty, put it on. If you don't put it on. So I think, putting those supplements together that are honest and that you can take to a carrier and not feel like you have to argue is important. There's a difference between arguing and trying to, and proving your point. And I think what we try to do at Elite is say, hey, we're not going to argue with you. My people don't yell and scream. I refuse to do it. They're not, they're all trained not to yell and scream. We're not argumentative in our emails. We're firm, but we're firm because we know that the data, the photos, the documentation, it's on our side because we're only asking for things that we can prove. And so not only does that help get better supplements approved, number one, but number two, it helps another key thing. And I'm sorry if you're going to get to this and I'm jumping ahead, but I'm going to jump into it real quick if you don't mind. It addresses a key concern for a lot of contractors when it comes to supplementing, which is that they're going to piss off the insurance company and the adjusters that they meet every day. And you can't do that because you'll get blacklisted, right? I mean, being blacklisted by an insurance is a real thing. I have seen it happen to contractors before where State Farm says, you're so-and-so contractor, I am not meeting with you anymore. I won't talk to you. I won't meet with you. I have no obligation to. My relationship is with the policyholder. I'm not going to talk to you, Mr. or Mrs. Contractor. That's real. That happens. And then you are in trouble. So I think it's better to try to build a stronger relationship with the insurance company, one of mutual respect. We don't have to be best friends with them. We can still think that they're, not doing the right thing sometimes. But, a lot of supplement companies and contractors who supplement get this bad rap because they yell and scream. And I just don't, again, if someone can find a place in life where you can point to yelling and screaming working real well, I don't know, great, but it's never worked for me. So that's not how we do things.
I agree. And so kind of going back to that, it's making sure that you're actually asking for what you need to take it apart and put it back together, yep. Right? Just simply asking for exactly what you need. And those relationships with those adjusters are important to your contracting business, right? To your roofing business. Those are very important relationships. You don't want to burn those bridges. You can disagree with an adjuster, right? Many times, right? Yeah. Many times you will disagree with an adjuster, but being able to use kind of a factual based argument with them, right? Not a screaming match with, right. Right. A factual based argument. Hey, look at the pictures that we took of this soffit. We need, right? Here's what we need, right? This is actually what we need. We're not trying to ask for more. And then that builds credibility and respect on that side, right? On the adjuster side for sure. Yep.
Absolutely.
Don't argue with them. That it just doesn't. Yeah.
Debate respectfly, right? Disagree.
Debate respectfully, totally right? Yeah.
But yeah, don't, arguing, it just doesn't go very far, and what's going to happen is you do that with that adjuster and then you're going to see that adjuster again. And next time you see him in that job you go to where it's damaged, but it's one of those, 50-50s, you've got enough to get a claim filed. You think it should go forward, but it's one of those in the middle ones. If he just doesn't like you, guess what? That's not getting approved.
That's right.
If they do like you and they trust you and they respect and they know you're not out to gouge them and you're being honest, then those things go your way. And that, imagine just 10 more jobs a year because you did that. At an average $15,000, that's $150,000 in revenue, right? Because you didn't piss that adjuster off. Again, I can't wrap my head around this like the insurance company's the enemy. We need to sue them and go to arbitration on every job. It doesn't, I can't find how it makes a lot of sense from a business perspective.
Yeah. Yep. And you've run.
I get a little fired up about that one, Jim.
Yeah, exactly. And you've run a successful roofing business also. Let's say that this is not from a perspective of, you're coming from a perspective of a true business owner, of a true contractor, right? Yep. One of another thing that we hear that I've heard, in regards to not doing supplements is because it slows down the process. And we just want to kind of keep the momentum going and knock another job out and knock another job out and knock another job out. And, and what are your thoughts on that? And how to, what can people do to have the procedures to put in place to keep the process moving quickly?
Yep. So you hit the nail on the head. It's about procedures, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that, that every time you supplement, the process is going to be as fast as when you don't supplement, because that's just not the case. Sometimes, right now, we're in October of 2020, and for State Farm, for example, has been telling us like, we're not going to look at anything you send for 10 days. We're just too backed up. We can't deal with the volume, right now. We're just too backed up. It's 10 days till we're going to look at it. And there's not much I can do about that. I can't twist State Farm's arm too much. They're State Farm, right? So it's about having the procedures in place to be able to ensure it's going as fast as it possibly can, while thinking through from your business. And I can't tell every business owner how to look at this, because you have to understand your own business and your own numbers and your own people. Thinking through, is it better for me to be, a week or two behind my normal speed, but making $3,000 to $4,000 more per project? Or is it more important for me to sell a job and produce it 3 days later for my business? How is your business set up? And I think every business is different on how they look at that and their strategy and their go-to-market strategy and everything, the types of salespeople they have and so on and so forth. But the procedures in place are the things that make it go fast. Having those checklists filled out during the inspection, taking the photos during the inspection, getting the jobs over to either your internal supplementing person or your third-party firm immediately once they get turned in. Those are the things that speed that process up. So yeah, State Farm's 10 days out on us right now. But typically, we're talking 3 days in a normal season, normal market, when you don't have a hurricane down south, a derecho, or however the heck you say that thing in Iowa, and all the other stuff that's going on around the country with COVID and so on and so forth. When you're not in that world, 3 days, I don't know. If you ask me, I'd wait 3 days to make an extra $4,000.
For sure. The other thing that I hear a lot, on the supplementing side is they get a little pushback from the homeowners.
Sure.
Like, well, why are you trying to get more money? What do you,
right.
Why, so how would you advise a contractor to kind of speak to the homeowner and educate them on this process so that they get buy-in from that homeowner?
Yep. So I'll go back to my time owning 123. So when I kind of launched this internal division at 123 that was doing supplementing for us, we had a big meeting. All the managers from around the country were there, who all manage the sales staff. And this is the exact thing they said. How the hell are we going to do this? How are we going to get our customers to give us this money? We're going to supplement. We're going to get them an extra few $1,000, whatever it was back then. And then they're just going to keep that check because they're going to think they don't owe it to us. And so I agree, a lot of contractors are worried about this, and understandably so. But what we found is that this is all about communication. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. If you're communicating the supplement process to a client up front, not once the supplement is approved and you're going to pick up that check. Because imagine if you talk to you're going to buy a car, and let's pretend you go look at all the cars, you know what you want, you call the dealership up. Hey, I was there last week. I want to buy this car. You told me it's $20,000. Great. Sounds good. I'm going to come in tomorrow and pick it up. You show up and they say it's $25,000. Of course you're going to be like, what the hell? No, I'm not giving you. You said it was $20,000, right? Yep. So of course. However, if they said there's a sale going on and that sale ends Wednesday and it's $20,000 on Wednesday, but if you don't come till Saturday, the price is going up to 25. Well, they've told you in advance, if you don't show up till Saturday, okay, like you knew up front, right, what was going on. So this is the same principle. When you meet with a client, right when they get approved and you go sit down to do I always called it a color pick, where you pick out the color shingles, type of shingles, whatever. During that meeting, you need to explain to the customer how this insurance process works. So here's the pitch. The pitch is, so Mr. and Mrs. Smith, thanks so much. Glad we got your colors picked out. Really excited to do your project. Let me go through the insurance process now and what's going to happen. You've already received an estimate from the insurance company going over what they're going to pay for and the items they're going to pay for on your roof. However, insurance companies miss things sometimes. They're humans. They make mistakes and something gets missed. So the insurance company created this process called a supplement. I didn't create it. The insurance company created it. And they created it so that when there are things that are missed, your contractor has a mechanism to go back to them to make sure that you're reimbursed for those items to then pay to me when there's items that are missed. So an example of Mr. and Ms. Smith might be if we find that there's actually 2 layers of shingles on your roof. We didn't know it right now for some reason. It's just in one section. We tear the shingles. Oh, there's another layer. Well, there's an added expense there. And I don't want to charge that to you. So the insurance company created this mechanism for me to go back to them and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Adjuster, you missed these extra shingles, this extra layer of shingles, and that's an extra $500. And I will come to an agreement with them. At the end of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, what this means to you is you still pay no more than your deductible. That's it. That's your responsibility. But if I find additional items that need to be paid for by the insurance company, I'm going to go back to them and talk to them, which is why our agreement here says we're going to do this for this amount of money, plus, or a lot of contractors say insurance proceeds, plus any supplements approved by the insurance company. Notice it's approved, Mr. and Ms. Smith, not just because I say so. They have to approve it. And the way they're going to do that is I'm going to show them through documentation and codes and things like that what they may have missed. That's the process. Then a week goes by, the supplement gets hashed out. You get a notification from the insurance company that says we're paying an extra $4,000 and here's what we're paying for. You immediately call the customer. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, great news. We found some items that were missed. The insurance company has agreed to pay for that. So you're going to be getting a supplemental check either now or when the job is completed for those other items. So that's great news. It means you're getting a great roof system, not just shingles thrown on your roof, but we're going to make sure you get a full system. And we made sure that when they missed those items, they paid for them. If you do that, the customer is informed through the whole process.
The whole process.
They understand what's going on. Where contractors get into trouble with this, and I did it. I mean, I got into trouble because I didn't know to do that until I screwed up enough times and people didn't give us the checks that we figured out how to talk about it. Then the customer's more than happy to give you the check because they feel like you are the expert, which you are as the contractor. You know this process. You're there to ensure that they get a quality roof put on their house, and this is how it works. And they're fine with it at that point.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And it is in the communication, right? And just making sure that you communicate properly and effectively with the homeowners so that they understand the process from A to Z. Mike, how can people get a hold of you if they want more information on Elite Claim Solutions?
Yeah, best thing to do is go to our website, www.eliteclaimsolutions.com. That's claim, no S. Everybody always thinks it's claims. Eliteclaimsolutions.com. That's the best place. Number one, there's a bunch of info on there for you. We give away just kind of a lot of our knowledge that we have over the years. So just as a place to learn, it's a great place to go about the industry, but also there's ways to get in touch with us there. Or feel free to email me, which is mbraun, BRAUN, at eliteclaimsolutions.com.
Awesome, man. Thanks for your time. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more sales through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com and get a copy of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thanks for listening.